Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities. Welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is Unit Encounters. So, without further ado, let's jump right into this box set. The first story in this box set is called The Dalek Transaction. A group of guerrilla soldiers have tracked down and disarmed a Dalek. Unit turns up on the scene in order to look for signs of this Dalek. Upon paying a good price for it, they find themselves in the midst of a plot by the Dalek to overtake the guerrilla soldiers and disarm them, and most importantly do what all Daleks do: destroy and exterminate. Upon getting close to the Dalek manages to convince Unit that there are others of its kind, hiding in the trees, waiting in the jungle, but when they get there, it turns out that this in fact is not true, and the Dalek was just biding its time to attack the soldiers and exterminate each and every one of them. By the time it comes to the end of it, the Dalek gets down to its last legs, and it's not willing to give up without a fight, pointing out that the Dalek has a self-destruct system, meaning that any Dalek technology, even including its own casing, will destroy itself in a suicide that will make sure that the human race cannot use any of its technology for their own purposes. The second story, Invocation. Upon going into an old house owned by a disgraced scientific advisor from Unit, Kate discovers a plot devised by an old woman in order to scare the living daylights out of anyone she wishes. To add to the terror, a bunch of ghosts have been scaring the people of London and the people of the United Kingdom out of their wits, and Unit has no clue where these ghosts come from and why they're here. Upon digging deeper into the case, Kate soon learns that the old woman has invoked a superstition and let another entity into this world. Whilst trying to break down the barriers and destroy the superstition, it turns out that maybe, just maybe, someone else was pulling the strings all along. The last couple of words the woman rants in this story is about seeing a creature with many eyes and calling it a beast, a mighty beast. This makes me think of Sutek, which indeed could be what was behind it. We do know that Sutek has manifested themselves as the devil in many forms. This wouldn't be too far-fetched, especially as Sutek is the god of death. The next story, the Centauran Project, is a very interesting one and really starts to make you see the horrors in humanity. The human race have found and hunted a Centauran. They have trapped it in a cell and have started using its, let's say, cloning capabilities to their own uses. A ex-scientist who used to work with Osgood has been using this gene in order to splice this individual and use them for his own purposes. The Centauran clone has ripped out a bit of its ident chip, making the rest of the Centaurans believe it to be dead. But in fact, it's only done this so that the humans can't use his technology. The scientist has manipulated his genes and made his own clone race of Centaurans, half beaten, half worn, and has tried to manipulate them into fighting for his cause. But when the real Centaurans turn up, the onslaught of soldiers get absolutely annihilated, and all the Centaurans return home to Sontar. The final story in this box set, False Negative, is when Josh and Osgood find themselves in a parallel universe to their own, where Unit seems to be under the rule of a fascist leader called the Leader. Don't directly meet the leader, but instead find themselves part of a murder situation. It turns out their parallel selves have killed someone within their organization, and now they are about to take the fall. To make matters worse, they're running back and forth between each other and constantly bumping into each other's doubles, who seem to be in a very, very connected relationship. Josh manages to come back to reality, but in doing so, he leaves Osgood behind in the parallel universe. Now it leaves Unit Down to do everything they can to save Osgood from the horrors of this parallel universe at any cost necessary. So, what did I think of Unit Encounters? Well, personally, I really love the story. I said I feel like there's a strong connection to Sutek. I also love the story about the Dalek in the way that it really proves it doesn't matter if you take away the gun stick or the plunger, the creature itself is heavily dangerous. This often reminds me of things like Revolution and Resolution of the Daleks and stuff like that, and how the Dalek can really control its own environment and adapt to its surroundings, and this is what makes it the most deadliest creature in the universe. I also like the cruelty that I've been hearing a lot in these box sets. When you watch the Centaurans on TV, you often think of them as bloodthirsty, heartless creatures. But in fact, to see them vulnerable a lot in these Big Finish box sets really often makes you feel kind of bad for them. Because, yes, they do slaughter many other species, but at the end of the day, they're just as manipulated and just as taken down as any other species in the universe. So it's not impossible to take them over. And I really think that kind of shows them in a sort of humanity way. Although, to be fair, I feel like the Centaurans would most probably call me human scum for trying to say something like that. But, you know, Sontaha. Centaurans. Sontaha. But yeah, sorry, I was waffling off a bit there. So back to my verdict on this box set. In a whole, I love its different elements. I love all these characters I'm meeting because we don't often get to see Unit, and we don't often get to see what they're like when the Doctor's not around. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Stay beautiful, Alonzi, and have a great night or day. Goodbye, you beautiful people.